Well, fancy meeting you here. My name is Elon Osborne and I like to talk about movies, audio, and music. And today, curiosity has brought you to wanting to bi-amp your front speakers. But this isn't just any old bi-amping tutorial. This will involve external amplifiers. Because I have already made a video about bi-amping using the internal software of an AVR. But using external amps is a little bit trickier. So, let's get into it, shall we? In this demonstration, we are featuring the Marantz SR7015 receiver. And since I don't have a 4-channel external amplifier, I'm just going to be using my Outlaw Model 7000X 7-channel amplifier. And it also features the monstrous Aperion Audio Verus 3 V8T towers. Whoa! Which, as you can see, are ready for bi-wiring since it has 2 sets of speaker terminals. And speaking of speaker terminals, since we will be bi-wiring, we will have to remove these jumper cables because the whole point of bi-wiring is splitting the high frequencies from the low frequencies. So we need to power the high and low frequencies independently. So in order to make that happen, we need to remove these jumper cables. Done. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, since this is the right speaker and I need 2 sets of speaker wire to connect to it, but there's only one right pre-out, how does that work? Pretty simple solution. We have a Y splitter. Yay! I just got this at Best Buy, 10 bucks. So we will need 2 of these, so 20 bucks altogether. So since we know we need to utilize the Y splitters, let's just go ahead and put those in the front, left, and right pre-outs now. Y splitter number 2 goes underneath. Ta-da! Okay, so let's go out of the right Y splitter first. We've got 1 RCA connection. We'll put that all the way over here. Okay, and then right RCA connection number 2. Okay, and let's skip an input so we have a little buffer zone for some good heat distribution. Now, coming out of the front left Y splitter, we've got 1 RCA connection. Let's put that all the way on this side, again for better heat distribution, like so. 1 more RCA cable into the second connection. And once again, we will skip. So we have some good buffers in between for better heat distribution. And lastly, don't forget your trigger output. So your external amp automatically turns on when you turn on your receiver. So you would take these 2 speaker terminals, plug in your speaker wire, plug them into the left and right of your high frequencies, take your other speaker wire terminal, plug it into the low frequency terminals, and plug these speaker terminals into the high frequency terminals, and these terminals into the low frequency terminals, bi-amping the signal. And there you have the physical connections. On the software side of things, it really just depends on your configuration. There's not really anything extra special you have to do with biamping using an external amp because you're still just using the 2 physical pre-outs. You're not needing to use multiple amps inside the receiver itself. So just for kicks, let's go over one particular scenario. Let's say you've got a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos configuration and you want to power your front, left, and right speakers externally and biamped. So go into Speakers, Manual Setup, Amp Assign, and anytime you're using an amp to some degree, but still utilizing some of the internal amps of the receiver, you want to use the 11.1 Assign mode. That automatically tells the receiver, hey, guess what? There's an external amp involved, so be aware. So, like I said, we're using a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos configuration in this example, but also, in order to trigger this receiver to know that we are going to be utilizing an external amp with our front speakers, we need to change the floor to 5-channel and surround back. Height speakers, like I said, we've got 4 of them because we're doing a 5.1.4 configuration. Layout, front height and rear height. Actually, let's do, say you've got 4 in-ceiling speakers. So let's do that, top front and top rear. Pre-out, yes, you can change this to be assigned to power the front speakers or the top height speakers. But in this scenario, obviously we're biamping the front speakers. So we want to choose front for the pre-out assignment. Go back to speaker config. Front, we want to leave small so that we can choose the crossover frequencies, because if you were to choose large, that automatically makes the receiver think that these are full range speakers. So you don't have the ability to change the crossover frequencies if you choose large. So I personally like to choose small so that I have control over the crossover frequencies. Center, small, subwoofer, 1 speaker, or say you've got 2 subwoofers, you got a 5.2.4 system, then you could choose 2 speakers. Yeah, let's stick with that. Let's stick with 5.2.4. But did you see that? When I accidentally chose none for subwoofer, it automatically switched the front speakers to large because it assumed I have really large speakers on the front to handle the low frequencies. So let's change this back to 2 speakers, front, small, surround, small, surround back. We don't have any because we're doing 5.2.4, top front small, top rear small. And that's about it. It just depends on what your configuration is. Really, the only thing you have to remember is that if you're utilizing an external amp, you just need to start with the 11.1 assign mode and then go from there. But say you have enough external amps to biamp your front speakers and power every one of your other speakers with external amplification as well, then you would choose pre-amplifier assign mode. This makes everything ready to be powered externally. Pretty sweet. And then you can change the configuration to whatever you particularly have. So, like I said, there's not really anything special you have to do with biamping when you're biamping with an external amp, because it doesn't require any extra pre-outs to be used on the receiver. So once you got all that, don't forget to do Odyssey, so then it can calculate all the distances and EQ your speakers so that it all meshes together like butter. And that's about it on the software side.
Success.
Thank you for joining me on this biamp tutorial using external amps. I sure hope you learned something, possibly, maybe, hopefully. Now it's your turn. Do you enjoy biamping your speakers because you know it has those 4 terminals on the back? Or is biamping just not for you? Let's start a conversation, people. As always, please be kind to each other out there. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience them. And of course, always be listening.